Hello and welcome to another episode of the Es Una Final podcast. If you're listening to this and if you're watching and listening to this, we're on the Madrid podcast channel in our show From the Box Seat. And in the box seat today, I have my friend Charlie. Charlie, welcome to the show. Lots to discuss, but we have very few words to discuss, I believe.
Yes. Oh my. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to break down this wonderful, wonderful match that we had today. I'm gonna try and put some words to it.
Yes. Well, once it's okay, you can say that okay, you can make comebacks like these once a season. Twice, all right, twice. Like even the Chelsea game was even better, but to do this against the one of the two best tactical teams, if I may say, Liverpool and Manchester City, if those sides would be, and to do that against one of the two best tactical teams. Against a manager like Pep Guardiola at a stage like this, it's really difficult to put into words. But what I want to get into straight away, dive into in this podcast is I have never seen Real Madrid, tell someone that we're going to beat you and then go and beat them. Like the audacity the Real Madrid players showed from the moment on, like we won the league, even when people were mocking Real Madrid and I've seen like various narratives that you lost the first leg 4-3. Why are you celebrating as if you have won the game? This is why we are celebrating as if we have won the game. So this is new to me. Like all of this is new to me. But then again, I have seen a lot of things regarding Real Madrid, but I have never probably seen them like tell the opponent that, all right, come home in a week's time. We're gonna beat you and we're gonna go to the final. And they did exactly that. And they didn't look like they're gonna do that until the 89th minute of the game. And within 5 minutes, like from minute 89, official minute 89 to 95, game over, go home.
Yeah. And I'm just going to come on and say I did not see this coming whatsoever. You can go back and track all of the things I've said. I did not think we were going to win this tie. I didn't think we were even going to come close. So I'm not going to try and talk about how I was like always a believer in the team because I wasn't. But there's just an arrogance about this club. And it's the reason the fans love it and everyone else hates the team so much. Yeah. So, I mean, like having the tifo out there about another magic night in Madrid, having the Apa La 14 kits or the shirts already made for after the game. I mean, yeah, like all of us celebrating the 4-3 last week. I mean, I celebrated that purely on the basis that it should have been so much worse. I mean, we could have conceded a lot more and we probably shouldn't have scored 3 in that match. So, I mean, to give us even a chance today was massive. I mean, having a 1-goal deficit going in at the Bernabeu, I mean, as they proved, anything can happen. So, I mean, I think it makes sense that all the fans were celebrating the first tie. I mean, because you just know with this team, there's a never say die attitude, and they're just mentality monsters in the Champions League, and they proved today anything can happen, and especially more so with this team than any other in pretty much any competition in any sport. I mean, Real Madrid in the Champions League is just so dominant. It's absolutely insane. And it's one of the things that makes this team so much fun to support because you just get performances like this when you're about to turn off your computer at the 90th minute and then they put in 2 goals in like 1 minute and 40 seconds and you're back in the tie. It's just so incredible.
I just saw like a very heartwarming video on El Chiringuito. Is that like a father and a daughter? They already exited the stadium after even like when it was 1-1, probably to evade all the massive traffic there's going to be. They probably exited the stadium a bit earlier, and there was like a Chiringuito journalist talking to that gentleman. That how was the night? He was talking about that probably a comeback's not possible, and right then and there, like the stadium goes berserk. Rodrygo has scored again, and that man he just runs straight back to the stadium with his daughter, and there were some other people too who have like exited the stadium and they were going back. It was just beautiful, and just to touch up on that point one more time, like that why Real Madrid fans were celebrating. Even after like losing the first leg 4-3, we have actually seen like how this team can come clutch. even if we have like a 1 goal deficit, and a 1 goal deficit at the Bernabeu is nothing. Like we have like just proven that like it is like nothing. Don't even bother scoring 1 goal, and like don't even score 1 goal if there is like more than 15 seconds on the clock.
Yeah.
So uh, that was so beautiful in itself, that this team can drag itself through everything and come out on top like this. One key narrative about this particular game is that at one point there was no KCM and there was no Karim Benzema in the pitch. But then again, I saw another video, all of them, Cruz, Modric, Casemiro, Benzema, they were all lined up as like four coaches and like giving instructions, including Marcelo. Carlo was nowhere to be seen. Davide was like not even around. These guys were like, do this, do this. It was like Real Madrid having like 6 or 7 managers on the touchline. But I think this, metaphorically or even literally, might just have been a change of guard in 5 or 6 years, not even 5 or 6 years, probably in a couple of years, we will look back to the game and we will be able to point out that, all right, this is the game where the changing of the guard happened. Now, before giving the microphone back to you, I also want to touch up on this point that even with this phenomenal performance of Camavinga and Rodrygo, which we will talk about in detail, I would still start probably KCM and Valverde ahead of them in the final, because I think KCM and Fede Valverde as starters and Camavinga and Rodrygo off the bench, this is just a devastating combination. I don't think you get better of either worlds if you start Rodrygo and Camavinga and bench KCM, or do it the other way around or whatever. But if you start those guys and bring these guys in as fresh legs, this is just devastating at the moment. And like, there's no rush. These are all Real Madrid players. The eventual actual change of guard will happen in probably just a year's time. But just as an anecdote, my starting lineup would in Paris would probably, if everyone's fit, I would only change Nacho with Alaba and go with the same team basically. Now back to the change of guard thing. What do you think? What do you thought about that?
Yeah, that's my favorite part of, aside from the win, of course, from today. I mean, the fact that we were playing against, I want to say, the second best team in the world. I think Liverpool is better at the moment, but also you can't count out Real Madrid at this point. But we're playing against the second best team in the world in a semifinal in extra time, and we didn't have Cruz, Modric, Casemiro on the field. Benzema was off for the last bit. No Sergio Ramos, no Rafa Varane. It was entirely like your non-key players from at least last season and for much of this season. It's just incredible. I mean, and the way they picked it up. And also, I mean, I'm been very questioning of Carlo Ancelotti's tactics in this game. I was very confused when he made quite a few of those subs. I would have never brought up Toni Kroos at any point, at least in like normal time in the game, because I thought he was so influential in the build-up phase, and you could tell at least the build-up heavily dropped off when he was brought off the pitch. The same with taking Luka Modric off. Obviously, it ended up working in the end, but I mean, it's just so awesome to see how obvious the changing of the guard was today. Like, you had Dani Ceballos out there, Camavinga, and Fede Valverde making up a midfield trio to end the game. I mean, that is most likely what the midfield is going to be going forward. You can argue that Aurelien Tchouameni is going to be coming in, or someone else, but those are kind of the three guys right now that you think are going to be making up that midfield for years to come. And the fact that they were all key players in the match today and they all finished the game, because they always say it's not about who starts the game, it's about who finishes it. Tossing up in the air if you really believe that, but it's so cool to see them all get their time. And like you were saying, Rodrygo and Camavinga off the bench, they're just such incredible forces. Having impact players who can read the game super well, which is a massive, massive thing with Camavinga. His positioning and ability to read where players are going and his movement is just awesome. Rodrygo's timing of runs and the way he bombs in the penalty area and gets in front of defenders, just like what he did, especially on the first goal that he scored. That's just priceless to have. Some guy, and this is a very, very big comparison I'm making here, but he's close to having like an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer impact for Real Madrid as Ole did for United. I mean, it's nowhere near to the extent that he had, but it's something like a cult hero kind of thing where you bring him off the bench late on in the match, you're like, oh, yep, he's going to grab a goal here. I mean, when you need someone. I mean, it's Rodrygo in the Champions League. It's
Yep.
so, I mean, it would be amazing to see if he can continue to put in performances like this, but it really just, I question if he can do it in a starting position, because there's something to be said for watching and reading the defense in the game, and then
Mhm.
coming off the bench and seeing that you have this knowledge of where they're going to be,
Mhm.
like what Rodrygo has. And he also, like I said, has some great positioning. I think that's just priceless for Real Madrid going forward. And I 100% agree with you that he should not be starting in the Champions League final. It should be something coming off the bench to try and take advantage, just like
Yep.
what Ancelotti's been doing. So yes, I 100% agree with your Fede Valverde starting on the right wing
Yep.
against Liverpool.
Rodrigo has actually, if I want to like break it down to wrinkles, he has kind of made this diagonal run from the bottom right corner of the box to the top center or top left. It has kind of, become a Rodrigo classic.
Mhm.
He helped Benzema score the header versus Chelsea in the second leg by taking out Rudiger. Like Rudiger's gonna be here in the other camp pretty soon. Uh, he scored his first goal against Sevilla the same way. He scored the exact same way today. So I think, like, I was really skeptical about Rodrigo's impact as a whole this season until recently, but I'm like now completely sold on Rodrigo, and I think next season Real Madrid shouldn't, if we can bring Mbappe whenever Benzema is not available, the trio of Kylian Mbappe, the central striker, Rodrigo right wing, Vinicius left wing. It's going to be mayhem. It's going to be
Absolutely.
absolute mayhem. And also, like, speaking about Rodrigo, I don't necessarily like the narrative that he has always played in as a left winger in Brazil. So like people being a bit disappointed that we never got to see him on the left wing that much. Well, my counter argument towards that is Rodrigo has probably spent more time at Real Madrid at right wing than he has ever, done at a first team level, even at Santos. He came from Santos, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So and I think he's still very young. He's just a 21-year-old kid, and he can still be molded into a very good right winger. Uh, and the examples that I draw regarding this is, like, think about Gareth Bale. He was a left back, became a right winger, played a while at the central attacking midfielder role for Spurs as well. Came to Madrid, became a right, like probably one of the most devastating right wingers of all time.
Yeah.
Then whenever Ronaldo was not available, he used to play on the left every once in a while too. So like like good players, especially good offensive players, I think they should be able to play anywhere in the front three. And yeah, Rodrigo, I think, has pretty much all the time still to become a very good right winger. And even Cristiano Ronaldo, I remember when he was like really young, I think around the 2005-6 season, or like even until 2006, I can like damn sure he used to play on the right fairly often.
Yep.
And even like I think in the video game era, like in FIFA 8, I think he was a right wing midfielder. I have to like go check, but I'm pretty sure he was a RWM in FIFA 8. So, and then like he became the like probably the greatest left winger of all time. So uh, in that sense, I think Rodrigo has time to do that, and I cannot wait to see Rodrigo, the trio of Mbappe, Vinicius, and Rodrigo. But we'll see what happens about that, since the season has not ended yet, and Mbappe is not saying a word.
Yeah.
Coming back to Manchester City, I think the first half of this game we played fairly well and created two very dangerous opportunities. One was the Benzema header earlier on, and I think another was a Vinicius volley, which he probably could have taken a touch and like rounded past Ruben Diaz, but he took a first time shot. Those were two very, very good chances, I thought. And we pretty much kept City at bay. They didn't really create much more danger in the first half. What were your thoughts on the first half?
I mean, the one thing I want to state is, in my opinion, the Benzema chance was not like a great chance. It's only a great chance given that it's Karim Benzema and he's made
Okay,
headers.
yeah,
Like, I mean,
it
if
makes
you're
sense. Makes
if you're
sense.
putting that ball into the box and expecting your striker to get something on that and
Yeah.
get it on net, I mean,
Mhm,
that's a top tier striker, and we are very blessed to have Karim
mhm,
Benzema up top for us. So, I mean, yeah, that was a great chance by his standards, and
mhm,
yeah, I 100% agree with the Vinicius Junior chance. Probably could have brought it down and put something on net, maybe
mhm,
low because Ederson kind of has trouble with the dive and things like that. But yeah, we did super well defensive wise in the first half. I mean, they had the was it Bernardo Silva shot that
yes.
Courtois
Yeah.
had the
Mhm,
excellent save on. That was
mhm,
their only chance in the entire first half. Everything else was pretty much from outside the box, and I would say the team did really well defensive wise. Playing out of the back, I would say Militao had quite some issues on the ball, which is
mhm,
something we've seen as of late. Nacho was monumental, which
mhm.
we needed him to have a massive performance today. Aside from the one goal they conceded, he probably should have stepped out of the line a little bit earlier to close down. Was it Bernardo again? I
Mhm.
believe.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yep.
Yeah, probably should have closed him down a bit earlier. But the thing I kept seeing at halftime was Real Madrid has not registered a shot on target yet this match, and there people were damning Madrid because
Mhm,
they hadn't created any chances,
mhm.
and that's not what a shot on target is because they generated just about like one full expected goal by
Yeah.
halftime. So I mean,
Mhm,
it wasn't an issue of creating chances; it was an issue of their clinicality of the
mhm.
players taking on these shots. They definitely created the chances worth at least one goal
Yeah.
by halftime, and especially the play immediately after halftime where
Yes.
Vinny missed the open goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I mean, you like I am full on saying that Madrid should not have moved on in this
Mhm,
tie, but they definitely, for at least the first 75 minutes, they played well enough that they could have grabbed a goal. And I think extra
mhm.
time was fair in this match because they did play well enough
Yeah.
to force that extra time. So you got to be really happy with the way the team performed because I mean, you came into the match with Carlo Ancelotti saying
Mhm,
that he was going to go full chaos on this,
mhm.
which is just something that absolutely terrifies me as a like self-proclaimed like tactical guy. I mean, when your coach just says we're going to go out there and just try and cause chaos, I'm like, okay, give me a drink. I'm going to have to like comatose after this game because it's going to give me a heart attack. I mean,
Yeah.
and I mean, they didn't really do that. I mean, it was kind of system versus system. I was very surprised because Real Madrid was very calm for the most part, playing out of the back. They really beat City's press pretty well for the most part. City's press was also quite disjointed. And I mean, there were periods through the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half where our press was one of the best it has been the entire season. There was a period, I think, for 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning of the second half where the ball was
Mhm,
entirely in City's half. Every
mhm.
time they tried to get it out, it was Cruz or Casemiro sitting in the Zidane double pivot
Yeah.
with like the little box they play with the center backs.
Yeah.
I was like, thank God this is back. I love
Yeah.
that. That's
Yep.
one of my favorite things. I mean, so it was just so nice to see that there was some. I trust Carlo, of course, but there was some tactical little fidgeting in
Mhm.
there to like fight Pep's system. It was very good to see, and it gives me faith going forward that we're going to see more of this stuff next year as he just grows and grows more with this side.
Yes, and I love this so much that you bring that Zidane double pivot thing because I wanted to discuss this in this podcast, and this is the Es Una Final podcast. This was Es Una Final.
Yes.
We have another on May 28th, but uh, yes, that little tactical wrinkle really impressed me because usually what like the usual KCM setup is Casemiro stays in the middle, Modric on the right, and Cruz on the left. I don't remember. I probably didn't even see Modric on the right side of the midfield at all
Yeah.
today. He was occupying that Cruz number 8 role, and Cruz and Modric were just further back, bringing the ball out. So this is like the moment Zidane understood that Casemiro is not going to be a great on-ball presence. When you're building out from the back, you need to drag Cruz a little bit deeper, but Casemiro can still stay there to win the second ball or win the loose balls. That was beautiful today. Casemiro, like he like just like I tweeted his ball recoveries yesterday. It like pretty much represented it. He was weak on the ball today as well. Tried to do some dummies here and there. Some of them worked, but again, he's like recoveries were phenomenal in the air, on the ground, absolutely brilliant. Classic Casemiro. Uh, moving on, like within the game, I think. Do you think like Guardiola like took us a little lightly, or like just the atmosphere bogged them down a little bit? Because I thought like City did not look as intense as I expected them to be. I think the only time they got really intense after scoring the goal, and like all hell was let loose at that point after City scored their first goal. Grealish, toying with Carvajal, Mendy clearing it off the line, bouncing it off of Foden again, and then we taking charge back. But what did you make of Manchester City's performance? I do firmly believe that we did outplay them over the course of the 120 minutes, but I probably expected a much more fierce approach in terms of tactics, not probably aggressive that way, but I probably expected a better Manchester City for this game.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think one of the major factors was Kevin De Bruyne just looked lethargic throughout the match. I don't know if it's a energy issue with them playing all these matches back to back, and they're still fighting a Prem title race. So he was just not having as much off-ball movement as usual, trying to get in between the lines and things like that. He just wasn't creating as much as normal. Bernardo Silva did make up for that a bit. He was very dangerous, and every time he'd get on the ball, I would clench up, because we're just kind of shaky with the 1v1 defending and him doing his little ball carrying. He's so good with that. I mean, City's press was worse objectively than it was in the first match. And Toni Kroos doing his dropping deep and kind of forming up as a third center back at times really helped with that. Casemiro too. I mean, having him, obviously he's not as good on the ball and his passing range is quite poor, but he carries the ball well. After making the recovery, he'll do two touches in a progressive fashion. That usually does pretty well for Madrid to kind of break or close down, get guys to close down when they press him, and he can launch it out, whatever. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that really struck me about City today was Pep's substitutions were quite strange. Bringing on Fernandinho with, I believe it was somewhere around the 80th minute to kind of slow down the game. That just did not fit, I think, with what they were trying to do. They were trying to keep the tempo high, keep pressing Madrid, keep trying to force mistakes out of the back. Jack Grealish is another one. I know he had the brilliant chance that Courtois made the awesome save on, and then they had the goal line clearance. Jack Grealish strikes me as more of a relaxed player. He doesn't have the intensity. Of course, he wants to take players on and be creative, but he doesn't strike me as a massive presser with lots of drive and intensity. He kind of slows the game down to take players on and things like that. So I just thought bringing on players like that, who they're obviously going to put in a shift because you're working for Pep and he wants you to have the energy and all that, but they're more slower. Fernandinho is not going to be a massive presser. He's going to kind of sit and try and cut passing lanes and things like that. Jack Grealish had the great moves and whatever, but he's not a presser. I thought at that point Pep should have doubled down and tried to go on played a even higher line than they had and tried to close us down and keep us in our defensive third, but that just didn't happen. He really opened it up, which was crazy considering that Kroos was off at that time. We were just playing long ball, trying to get the ball forward. So it was just very questionable decision making. It just keeps going back to Pep overthinking these ties, or is he just not as in control as we all believe he is? I don't know. I'm not a City fan. I don't watch a ton of City. I don't know, but he just seems to keep, I don't want to keep throwing out the term bottling, but Pep seems to be bottling these big games, these big knockout games, and it's almost like at this point like a curse. Like when you're up 2 goals going into the 90th minute, the other team just tosses in 2 like that. I mean, it's very unlucky on City's part, but I mean, the performance they put out today, overtime, like I said, was a fair result for them.
Yep, we will get down to Rodrygo and Camavinga to discuss their performance in detail. Of course, my mind is just going to 1,000 places right now after going through this game. But I do want to talk about Dani Carvajal. I think without that little span of 5-6 minutes when Grealish absolutely cooked him. Apart from that, this was probably Dani Carvajal's best game since 2017.
Yeah,
unreal performance in defense and also in the build-up phase. In the first phase of build-up, Carvajal was, I think, fantastic. He didn't commit himself too forward, was relatively within Real Madrid's defensive third when Real Madrid were trying to play the ball out. Did not try any flashy passes, tried to look for the softest, subtle touches towards Modric or Kroos, whoever was nearest, and just got the ball out. And of course, that Benzema header, if that would have happened, that would have been a great assist. The assist he made for the Rodrygo's second goal, that was attributed to Asensio, but I still think that was a beautiful cross. So seeing Danny Carvajal like this makes me so happy and also a bit sad at the same time, because what could have been if he was probably this healthy last year. But like, we can always have like what ifs all the time. But it's good to see him back now. Keeping my fingers crossed. Just probably just need him healthy to continue this.
Yeah. You hit on everything I want to talk about Carvajal besides one point. I was talking earlier about how Eder Militao was shaky in possession.
Mhm.
Carvajal did very, very, very well to be an outlet for him, because Militao was either dropping passes long over the top, or going back to Courtois or Nacho, or Danny Carvajal was dropping off in a wide area to be that simple pass and putting himself under immense pressure every time, because City knew Militao he doesn't have the vision and the passing range to pick out these tough passes. So Carvajal dropping off every time and showing and making himself open for Militao was just so massive, and having the confidence to say, I will bail you out here again and again, and I know that City's going to put multiple guys on me as soon as I get the ball, is just, it's so great from him. And it's great to see that he has the confidence to make these quick little touches like you were saying.
Yep. And also from I think a leadership standpoint, when all three of KCM and Benzema was off the pitch, Nacho obviously, like Nacho is an underrated leader. I think he was captain of Castilla as well, and he is a good leader. He wore the captain's armband, but Carvajal was there as well. So that was really good to see Carvajal finally being Carvajal as a player, as a leader after such a long time. And yep, like Mohamed Salah is like really mad at Real Madrid that he wants to do something with Real Madrid. I think there is a redemption arc for Dani Carvajal as well. He also walked off injured in the 2018 final.
Yep.
I really do hope that he gets to play this game 100% fit. Now let's go down to the stars of the game. I think Rodrygo came before Camavinga. Came in before Camavinga. I have like no.
I'm not
Yeah,
100% sure.
yeah, I have. It's all a blur to
Yeah.
me.
I mean, it was 2 hours. It was like, or 2.5 hours or whatever. It felt like a marathon there. Yeah.
Let me quickly check who was Real Madrid's first sub. So yeah, Rodrygo was the first substitution. He came in for Cruz on the 68th minute, and Camavinga came in for Modric on the 75th minute. Also, an interesting point. Like, I thought like Ancelotti could have probably taken Modric earlier because he looked a tad tired.
Yep.
But yeah, like whatever
I agree.
happened. Now, like Rodrygo recently, what I've loved about him is that I like players who just come in and they start contributing, no bullshit, nothing. Rodrygo is slowly becoming that player. Like, we used to say that, all right, Asensio scores these golazos against Mallorca, but then again, he doesn't press or anything. Rodrygo was doing all those things, but he wasn't scoring. But what Rodrygo is doing right now, if you assist in these games, if you scored in these games, nobody's going to remember if you pressed or like defended in that game or not. Like, nobody's going to talk about if Rodrygo defended well in this particular game, right? So that really makes me happy that he is taking responsibility and executing these huge games and winning these huge games by directly contributing to goals, assists. He played very well against Sevilla, and today, like, I don't even know whatever he did for the rest of the game. He scored the 2 goals that basically won us the game.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those performances where, I don't know, I think he's got 3 years left on this contract here. He can just ride out his contract at this point, because everyone will just look back and say he got the 2 goals for City that won us the Champions League, got us to Champions League final, and ended up winning it for us. And we would not have been in the tie without him. Hopefully he continues to grow and is a participant in the seasons to come, and it's not like a Gareth Bale kind of figure. But this is one of those performances that really seals him as a part of the team for me, and like a key contributor going forward. Because like you said, I really hope that he is playing probably a third or more of the league minutes next season in place of like a Benzema as they kind of rotate him out. So, I mean, he's showing that he's got the movement down. The finishing is getting there. But I mean, if you have the movement, if you can get yourself into these key areas to get yourself in good positions to finish, that's the first thing you need as a striker. The clinicality will come as you go. And for a player like Vinny is an absolutely immense dribbler, carrier, all that kind of stuff. The end product is growing, just like Rodrygo. But to have a winger also who's more end product based, one who's more creative based, and that you can use in flip them in and out and use them when you need, that's so awesome to have. And Rodrygo's now, as he's starting to come into his own, it's so great that we have those options, especially with young guys who are continue to grow and you can mold them. And they've got all. It seems like the team has great chemistry when you watch the celebrations and things like that. So it seems like everyone wants to be here in the locker room. So it's just great to have guys that are squad players like this. I hope Rodrygo's not a squad player to come, but at the moment, it's awesome to have guys coming off the bench like him.
Yes, like that's why I keep going back to our 2016-17 season at the slightest opportunity I get.
Yep.
I think the stuff that Zidane did in that season with the A team, B team, like there should be books about it. It should be
100%.
It should be a graduation course. It should be a master's level course. What the squad rotation that Zidane did in 2016-17, and Real Madrid are slowly building that depth again. Like if you have again, I'm probably being way too hopeful about Mbappe once again, but if you have players like Vinicius and Rodrygo on the two wings, as you said, one of them is more end product oriented and one of them is more creativity oriented, and if you have a guy like Mbappe running through the middle like a demon, like I'm like getting goosebumps about thinking about that Real Madrid side. And if you add Karim Benzema, the best player of the world, on top of that, that is incredible depth. And if you can manage that depth somehow, how it was managed in 2016-17, like unbelievable success has to follow. Like there is no other way.
Yeah.
Coming down to Camavinga, this guy is like. I always keep going back and say that 25 million for Tony Cruz was peanuts and probably the biggest money heist or biggest robbery of all time. I might have to update that narrative with Eduardo Camavinga, because Tony Cruz, when he walked in for 25 million, he was already a World Cup winner coming from Bayern Munich, coached by Pep Guardiola, all that. Like he was already a very established player in the world of football, and then he became the Tony Cruz of today, like taking it, multiplying it by hundreds of folds. But what Eduardo Camavinga does for an 18-year-old, I feel like it's almost unnatural. You see, he's like a physical specimen. He's like a fireball. Real Madrid's third goal, he got the ball from Courtois. I have never seen Real Madrid do these kind of build-ups. Like he got the ball from Courtois, ran all the way through, and then basically he created that move that earned us the penalty.
Yeah.
And even for the first goal, for a guy who has been sitting on the bench all season, who this is his first, season at Real Madrid, to immediately know that Benzema is making that run, that he has to lay that ball off in the air first time. You can't possibly buy that with 30 million. I saw a tweet that we should send Rene another 60 million or something for him. Camavinga makes me so happy. He has that little Clarence Seedorf kind of hairstyle and swagger about him when he moves. I just can't wait to see how his career pans out as at Real Madrid. I just hope it doesn't turn out as the career of Martin Odegaard, which I don't think it would. Camavinga seems different in that regard. Look, lovely, wonderful player.
Yes, I mean, it's so much fun to have a guy who is a great presence where he's totally fine coming off of the bench in these games. I mean, he's 18, 19, whatever. So he's okay with not starting these big matches, but he's just got such a footballing IQ. You can tell the way he positions himself. He does kind of the Trent Alexander-Arnold bit where he'll stand behind a player, and when they're he'll make the interception as they're trying to receive the ball. He doesn't get into tackles as much as he needs to. Just go for the interception, step in front of someone. His positioning. I keep hitting on players in their positioning, but his defensive positioning, his awareness, it's so great. And then when he gets on the ball, his head's immediately up. He's looking to get the ball forward. He's not someone who's scanning behind to make horizontal passes and back passes. It's immediately progressive. And that's something that money can't buy at this point. Those are players that are priceless. Those are like your Pedris, your Bellinghams, your Camavingas. So I mean, 25 million for this guy is such
It's
a
it's
steal.
it's
And
unbelievable.
I can't like you see guys like Tchouameni that are now worth 70
Mm.
million or whatever in this market. That kind of money, it just shows what Real Madrid is at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, guys want to like playing for Real Madrid is enough of a fee for them. They don't need the salary.
Mm.
They don't need anything else. They just want to come play here, and they're willing to accept these low fees just to get out and go come play in Madrid. And it's so awesome to have that kind of recruiting at this club.
Yes, that is fantastic, and that is, as you said, like the Pedris, the Bellinghams, and the Camavingas. I think that is how it should be. Like I tweeted something a while earlier about Camavinga. It kind of blew up, and I had no idea what subtweeting was about. I realized apparently my tweet is a subtweet now. So the thing is, I'm not going to deny that I took a pretty harsh dig at Pedri in my tweet, but there was probably a bit of joking involved too. But my entire narrative regarding is this: that I don't mind being, Pedri being hyped to the smithereens. I don't mind that. I kind of feel envy towards the Barcelona fan base, that they can actually hype up their players like this, and Pedri probably deserves all the hype he's getting. What breaks my heart and what I don't like is that as a fan base, Real Madrid fans do not do the same. Like even after a game like this about Camavinga, we will probably not talk about him as much as we should every single day of the week going forward. So that's where my frustration comes up. That I don't mind other fan bases hyping up their players. That's I think your only job as a fan base, to hype up your own players. So I really wish that performances like these have earned Kamavinga the trust from this fan base, that we too hype him to the actual level that he deserves, because this guy is absolutely bonkers. I don't remember seeing a midfielder of his age doing these kind of things at Real Madrid in these kind of games, like the Champions League quarterfinals, the Champions League semifinals. These are the biggest games in club football, and this kid is like playing like he's played 50 of those. So that to me is beautiful, and I really do hope that Real Madrid fans take care of this guy and talk about this guy more often than what we do right now. Anything to add regarding the game specifically, or anything that you wanted to mention?
I don't believe so. I think we've covered a lot here.
Yep. We actually have. Yeah, time flew by. I didn't
Yes.
notice. Yeah, we spoke for almost 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we are going to break down the final in a preview episode in depth with the game that we have to play against Liverpool. But just a couple of more points that I do want to touch upon before we finish up. One of them is about the Liverpool game, and one of them is about the Pasillo, or the Guard of Honor fiasco that's going on in Spain. So here's my point of view, Charlie, on this. Like, I can understand Atletico Madrid not wanting to give a Guard of Honor to Real Madrid. I 100% understand this. If I was on the receiving side, I would in no way want to give a Pasillo to Atletico Madrid, to be told, to Atletico Madrid or Barcelona. Probably I'll give it to other teams, but probably not these two. But I'd probably just say it out loud that I'm not going to do it because I don't want to do it. I'll probably not paint it like that this is disrespectful for our fans. I mean, like, when you lost the league and are now struggling for fourth position, isn't that disrespectful to your fans? And there is that whole thing that Real Madrid didn't give the Guard of Honor to Barcelona in 2018. Zidane took responsibility for that we're not going to give it. I've seen Barcelona fans tweeting a lot about that they were not obliged. Well, nobody is ever obliged to give a Guard of Honor to anyone. They just do it as part of tradition. And the other thing is, Zidane very clearly in that press conference where he said that we're not going to give the Guard of Honor to Barcelona, and here's the reason why. He said it very, very specifically. It also like frustrates me that when Zidane had said things very specifically, we don't talk about that. So what Zidane's narrative was that Barcelona is saying that they didn't participate in the Club World Cup. Why should they give uh, a Paseo to us? All right, understandable. But Barcelona also didn't participate in the UEFA Cup when they gave a guard of honor to Sevilla. So again, if you don't want to give the guard of honor to us, just say it that you don't want to. Don't make up stories like this. And Zidane had full reason at that point that all right, because you were supposed to give one to us. Now we are supposed to give one to you. We're not going to do it either. Fine. And Zidane, he said that I don't want to give it. He laid out a reason. But what Atletico Madrid fans are doing, or like Atletico Madrid players are saying that it's going to be disrespectful to our fans. Like I don't really understand that. I hope when we start Jovic as goalkeeper and Lunin as striker this Saturday, we do something about it. I'm just gonna get your quick thoughts about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn. I don't really care
Mhm,
about getting the Guard of Honor or anything like that. I mean, it is tradition, so I do
mhm,
feel like they should do it. I mean, that's the
mhm,
main thing behind it. I mean, it's something that you do. I
mhm,
don't think Real Madrid should have not given it back in 2018. I think it should just be something that you do no matter who it is. You
mhm,
accept the defeat and just do it.
mhm.
So if Atleti doesn't do it, I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, we won the title. Is this really what
Yeah.
we're choosing to be heard about? I mean,
No, no,
we
of
I
course
mean,
not.
we're going to laud it over them for the
Mhm.
next year.
Yes.
Is that not enough? I don't know. I mean, so yeah,
Yes.
they should do it absolutely. But if they
Mhm.
don't, I mean, we're not
Yep.
gonna. I mean, we probably will bring it up if we beat them next season. We'll do it for the Paseo or whatever.
Yeah.
And if I
Yeah,
mean,
and some of the pettiness is funny because
yes,
they sent like every team. This is we live on social media. This podcast is going to be on social media. That's how we reach to
yeah,
people. Every team apart from Osasuna and Atletico Madrid, they congratulated Real Madrid over social media, barring the except Atletico Madrid and Osasuna. And apparently, Atletico Madrid like sent a letter. Like, what is that letter made of? Is that a handwritten letter from Coque with like teardrops, messing up the ink, something like that? Like, I don't know, man. I mean, and some of this spite is, I think, like I feel like this is just because this is Real Madrid. Like I
yeah.
don't think Atletico would send a handwritten, tear-torn letter to Barcelona if they were champions or any other team. So some of this spite is just like it feels weird that you're just doing this because it's Real Madrid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
The last thing that I do want to talk about quickly about Liverpool. After playing a couple of games against Manchester City this season and having watched some of the Manchester City versus Liverpool games, I think Liverpool is going to be a much bigger challenge than Manchester City. The only thing I'm going to talk about that the final is I think Pep Guardiola is uh, a manager who can control player emotions better. His team has a better mentality. Jurgen Klopp has better mentality. I,
Yep.
I messed it. I messed it up. I messed it up a little bit. So Jurgen Klopp can be a mentality monster if need be. I don't think Pep Guardiola, for all the things that he is not a mentality monster, and it showed again today.
Yeah.
Uh,
I,
Carlo Ancelotti knocked him out of the Champions League twice with inferior squads. So this is now twice. So I think for that simple matter that Liverpool is not going to be phased by Real Madrid as much as the other teams have. Just for that matter, I think that's going to be a much bigger challenge. And even like against Villarreal, although like there were those ghostly mistakes from Rui, but still Liverpool fought back and got the win against Villarreal. So that's what I was saying, that they have a coach who is a mentality monster and he can transcend that feeling among his squad. So I think the Champions League final starts at absolute 50-50 whenever that starts. We will talk about that, of course, in the future as well. But your quick thoughts on just that point.
Yeah, I mean, on the mentality monster thing, I came into the semifinal saying that I didn't care how we did. I mean, like the league was enough for me. Now that this is through, I am fully invested in this. We have to win the final. One, one for like the team pride, and two for like
Yeah.
my anti-England bias. So, and the other thing is, I am not a mentality monster. I'm very nervous going into this because
Yeah, wait,
Liverpool's a
like
very good team,
absolutely.
but the team of all the mentality monsters, Real Madrid in the Champions League is the biggest of all. You can guarantee that these players will
Yeah,
not be
yeah.
phased going into it. So
Mhm,
anything like Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool, like their cool mentality that the
mhm,
English commentators like to talk about, Real Madrid, they're like, these guys have been here so many times
Yeah.
before. It's gonna, like, there's no intimidation factor here.
We've been here so many times that we have now started to repeat opponents.
Yep.
Like, Atletico Madrid twice, Liverpool twice. I don't think we're facing Juventus anytime soon in the next 4 or 5 years. That seems pretty unlikely. But Charlie, thank you so much. It has been lovely to talk about. It has been a good positive therapy. Usually we need therapy when there's a big loss, but I had a lot of stuff to get out, and I was able to with you. We will break down the final sometime before the final. This is, I think, rest week for Real Madrid players, fans, staff, everyone. We can do whatever we want for a while, I think. But fans and listeners who listened to us and watched us on this episode of the Madrid Better podcast channel and the Una Final podcast, thank you so much. Keep following us, and we will see you again soon. Take care.
Thank you.